There you go.
Gerard and Rhino in the studio. Joining us now, Lee Childress, Superintendent of the Corinth School District. Good morning there, Lee. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's start by explaining to our audience the attendance system that you guys have, or just the scheduling system. It's different than most of the other districts in that you attend school year-round. Is that correct?
Well, it's not exactly year-round, but we're on a modified calendar. So as of today, we're finishing our second week of school.
Okay. All right, and you have breaks between the sessions and then get back to it. Is that correct? How many sessions do you have a year?
We go for 9 weeks, and then we take a 3-week intersession break. Then we come back for Christmas, then take another 2 weeks in March, and end school about the first week of June.
How long has the district been on that system?
This is our 6th year to be on that system.
Okay. All right. So the situation with the COVID, lots of consternation about mask mandates and vaccinations, and just in-person versus hybrid versus remote virtual learning. These issues I sort of thought we were going to be done with by about this time, but it looks like they're cropping up again with this hyper-infectious, contagious Delta variant. How are you guys doing? So you've been in school a couple of weeks. How's that been going? Have you had to send folks home as a result of finding out people are sick and need to quarantine them and so forth? How's that working out at this point?
We've had a successful 2 weeks of school. Our primary instructional focus, of course, is for in-person learning, and we have very few students that are actually on some type of virtual platform. Most of those that are on a virtual platform are on it for medical reasons.
Okay.
We are seeing, some trending numbers that are a little bit higher this year than they were in the first 2 weeks of school last year. Right before the show, I looked on to see how many cases we had identified in the schools this week that had been reported to us, and we had 25.
Okay.
When we look at those, one of the things that I would say is a couple of them are, involve a couple of families. And so we are seeing that it is affecting more families this year overall than it was last year. We have had to quarantine students. We were using the recommended modified quarantine method that the Mississippi State Department of Health had recommended up until last Friday, where students could be subjected to testing every 2 days and allowed to stay in. However, the State Department of Health discontinued that, and I understand their reasoning behind that. But the interesting thing was, and the encouraging thing was the number of parents that took advantage of that opportunity, which I think demonstrates that parents want their children in school.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And there's so much that's been discussed and written about just the remote school and how that has caused so many students to fall behind. Not just so much in content and learning content that you learn in the classroom, but just in social development and the interaction with the teacher. I know I've talked before, my daughter teaches in the Madison County School District here at Ridgeland High School, and she just talked about how that face-to-face interaction is so critical, so vital to student development. And I really missed that. Students missed it, the parents missed it, the teachers missed it. And so I think it's a good thing based on all that feedback, and just and some reports even suggest that we lost some time there that is very difficult to recover and just kind of make up for that time in the classroom. But I know you guys will certainly work diligently to do that. So how are you handling the whole masking situation, Lee? Did the board or did you decree a mask mandate? Is it optional up to the parents? How does that work?
At this point, masks are optional in our school district. When the Board of Trustees adopted our reopening plan prior to the start of school, they made the decision for masks to be optional. However, we do highly recommend
Yep.
that individuals wear masks. And I would say that you're probably seeing in the neighborhood of 10 to 12% of our students wearing masks. Now,
Okay.
we are following the guideline that deals with public transportation, and masks are being required on our school buses in order to comply with that public transportation masking order.
So I got to ask you, have you received input, shall we say, from the parent community on both sides of this issue? I was saying earlier on the show, I talked to a friend of mine that's on a local school board, said they had a number of people that were demanding 100% masks. I mean, a mask mandate, as did they have people that say we want none, or the option
We
at
have
least.
not, yeah, we have not had a lot of calls either way,
Okay,
being either for or against masking. One of the things that we have seen is that I think the inclination is probably here in this community not to require a mask mandate until we get to the point that we see it as something absolutely necessary. I
okay,
think that one of the things that, going back to some of the things you said earlier, I think that we all need to learn to respect each other and respect a differing of opinion. And
sure.
while we have to respect a differing of opinion, sometimes we have to make decisions or enforce decisions or comply with decisions that we all might not agree with, but might be in the best interest of our community.
Yeah, I agree, and it's not lost on me that this is a difficult, complex matter to manage, and it's not anything you've ever had to deal with before that I'm aware of. It's certainly in school districts. This is introduced really a whole new level of complexity into operating schools. Just never had to be dealt with, managed before. This is kind of uncharted territory, a phrase we've heard countless times over the last year, but it truly does apply to education.
No doubt, it's changed the dynamics of operating schools. I mean, we're dealing with issues today that we have never dealt with before. I'm starting my 21st year as a superintendent,
Wow.
and I can tell you, we're spending a lot of time on these health-related issues. We always have, but it's extremely important because the key is we want to create a safe environment for our students and staff in our schools, and that is
Yeah.
extremely important because that contributes to us being able to continue that in-person learning, like you mentioned that your daughter said, where children and staff can have those face-to-face interactions.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had the governor on at the Neshoba County Fair last week, and he indicated as one of his top priorities in the next session to try to get a $3,000 a year teacher pay raise through that would be implemented over a 3-year period. Your thoughts about that?
No doubt, teachers deserve to be paid more, and I think the governor, when he made his comments about the particular raise, he made the comment of what teachers had done over the last year.
Yeah,
And I think that when we look at the resilience of Corinth teachers and Mississippi teachers and teachers all across the country, they did an absolutely amazing job last year being asked to do things they had never been asked to do before. And
yeah,
teachers not only need to be recognized for those efforts, but they need to be recognized for their efforts as a professional. And
yeah.
teachers deserve to receive a professional wage. It's a very noble profession. And so I
No,
certainly
absolutely.
agree with the governor and encourage, and I'm encouraged that there is talk about a teacher pay raise. And I certainly hope that we see that the legislature and the governor do make that happen.
We got just a minute or so left. And so, Lee, we lag the neighboring states in terms of average teacher pay as well. You're kind of in a sort of a location where you're not far from Tennessee, not far from Alabama. Does that affect you somewhat in recruiting and hiring teachers?
It does affect us to a degree because, as you said, where we are, we have individuals that could come from Tennessee and Alabama to
Yeah,
teach for us. If they're making a high or have the ability to make a higher wage there, they're going to look there.
yeah.
And that has been an issue with us in recruiting those individuals that would be new to the profession from those areas.
Appreciate you coming on today, Lee. Very informative and good luck on the upcoming school year. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Lee Childress, Superintendent of the Corinth School District. We'll step aside right here and come back with more talk. Stay with us, the JT Show.